Hi, welcome back. And this is the third of our panelists who we're inviting here this morning to talk about different aspects of the whole space tech industry. And this is a totally new element that we've not really mentioned or talked about before, the whole concept of travel in space as a commercial venture, space tourism, let's say. And we have here joining us via Zoom, István Sárhegyi. He's the founder of Herius Capital Space Fund and co-owner of Remred Space Technologies. And István, I believe you're very interested in this whole concept of space travel and the future of it. You're also a space lawyer, is that right? I'm kind of wondering what space lawyers do. I mean, I've met maritime lawyers, aerospace lawyers. So what's a space lawyer going to do? But maybe we'll come to that later. Let's look at this first aspect. So, I mean, obviously this is something you believe is going to be a big, but this is going to be potentially a really productive commercial venture. But on the other side, we see that getting people up into space, it takes a huge amount of power. It's not great for the environment, and it's a huge cost as well. So how do those two things balance?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here at Space Terminal. And so about space tourism, first of all, I think we should talk about the economical potential or the venture potential of this new service, because we are living in a new space age called new space, and we call it a new space age because of three things. And first of all, the expectation of the revenues of new services from space sector will be higher and higher. Till 2040, I think it can be $1 trillion sector. So this is the first thing. And this is connecting to space tourism too, because one of the new services is space tourism. And of course, the second one is that we have lower costs, and till 2040, 1 kilogram, launching 1 kilogram to space will cost about $100. So it will be really low. The third one is a state part of it, but it is not connecting to this subject. So first of all, we have now the ability or the capabilities to make this new venture or new services alive, because we have low costs and we have high revenue expectations. And this is the rationale behind the space tourism. And of course, as you mentioned, this can be harmful for the environment, but I think space and space sector is one of the solutions to save our planet. So I think without the space industry and the innovations of the space industry, we can save the Earth and the environment. So always a lot of people say that why do we invest in space, because we should invest in healthcare or education, but I think in the 21st century, this is one of our solutions to save planet Earth and make a plan A, as I mean, to save this planet possible. So it's not about colonization of Mars or Moon. It is about saving Earth. So I think it's less harmful than there are a lot of benefits from space industry and of course space tourism too.
Okay, and so what do you think it will look like? Because currently, I mean, all of us have seen, the latest, Jeff Bezos sending Captain Kirk up, so basically we've got 3 people going up there for 10 minutes and then coming back down again, which obviously is an amazing experience, but that seems like a huge cost and a lot of time for 3 people. What do you think that, the sort of, you know, in a few years' time, what do you think space travel is going to look like as a tourism, as an actual industry?
I think we are only in the beginning of space tourism. So it is like, it looks like we are in the era of the Wright brothers, for example. So after the innovation of airplanes, for example, after that, in 30 or 40 years, flying is becoming commercial. And I think this is the first step, so that we have high ticket prices. For example, at Virgin Galactic, one ticket is $450, $450,000, sorry. So it's really high, but I think in the near future, so I think in maybe in 10 years, it will be so much lower that we can. So it will be possible for everybody to make space tourism and go to space even for 5 or 6 minutes. But the most interesting part of space tourism, or these types of traveling, is that in 2017, when Elon Musk announced Starship, he also mentioned that we won't use Starship only for colonization of Mars or the Moon, but we will use it as aeroplane or planes. So we can reach any A to B travel in the Earth less than an hour. So it can be a new innovation for planes, or instead of planes. And I think because we talked about the environmental part of it, I think it's more or less harmful for our environment, because these starships are using the space, not the air of the Earth. So I think it's more or less harmful.
Right, so if I understand you, what you're talking about, the potential future is that we want to go from, let's say, Frankfurt to Sydney in Australia. We'll get into a kind of, you know, some kind of starship. It will leave the Earth's atmosphere and then come back
Yes.
in, and that's going to take it, which is a really interesting idea. And that's brilliant on one side. What about, before we get there, you and people like yourselves are selling the concept of a 5-minute experience outside of the Earth's atmosphere. I mean, just, sell it to us. Why should we pay a lot of money just to have, what do we get in that 5 minutes?
Most important thing about space travels, and astronauts who I met actually always says that there is one moment in their space travel that is a life-changing moment. This is called the overview effect. When you look at the Earth from space and you realize that we are so small in this universe, and this is so this is a rich planet, and we are so lucky that we can live on this planet, that we have to save it. And this can be also a spiritual thing or a religious moment for astronauts. But the main thing is that you realize that we have saved this planet. So this is the overview effect. And of course, for example, one of our foundations the Space Bus Foundation has an initiative to make a VR experience for children to experience this overview effect. But of course, it is still a better thing that you can live it not through VR, but as a live show, so you can see it and you can experience it in reality. So I think this is a good experience or opportunity to show people that our planet is really small, the universe is really huge, and we are really lucky that we can live on this earth, and we have to save it. So this is, I think, the main reason why we should use space tourism and develop it.
Okay, and one other question just around the space tourism side of things. I mean, we know even the recent space tourists, even they can be in their 90s, but they have to go through a fair bit of training before they're allowed into the capsule. How are you going to overcome that? So it literally is something like, so that people feel that, they can turn up, or is that going to be made part of the experience as well?
Yeah, I think it's part of the experience, because you can feel like an astronaut, but you are actually not an astronaut. So, for example, in the US, they have new rules about who can become a real astronaut. And right now, the new rule, based on the new rules, who are using Virgin Galactic's equipment or Blue Origin's launchers, these people are space tourists, but not astronauts. But for example, with SpaceX, they had this mission called Inspiration 4. They actually became real astronauts, all of them, so all of the 4 people.
Wonderful. It's given us a really nice insight, and it makes it very real for us, and we can understand, the real positives of it. A last question to you. I mean, if we go back, you mentioned the Wright brothers, and one of the interesting things I was reading about them the other day is that the amount of collaboration the two of them undertook. So they were writing to people all around the world, finding out how other people were trying to get into, the concept of flight. And, it was unbelievable. It's a little known fact. And yet we know with space travel, there's a lot of collaboration, but there's also a lot of geopolitics involved. So how can that be overcome? Because presumably, if we're sharing, if China is sharing with America and with the European Union, then the development's going to happen faster. But then on the other hand, there is this kind of competitive element to be, first, as we see between Virgin and, the other players in the field.
Well, this is a really complex and interesting question. To answer it shortly, this will be a big challenge, and actually we don't know the answer. What will be the outcome of this big race or challenges between countries? Because as I told you, the third pillar of new space age is the governments and the nations. And right now we are living in a new space race era where countries or nations are racing, but also private companies are racing, and also governments and private companies are racing between themselves. So it is a really complex new space race. So it is not look like the Cold War or the race of the Cold War, because it was two governmental entities. It was about national prestige, of course, and geopolitical things, but it was really much simpler than nowadays space race. So it is a really good question, and we don't know the answer. I hope in the end everyone will be really peaceful, world peace will come and things like this, but we will see. I don't know. I really don't know.
Good. Well, you have given us some very positive insights in what the world could be like if we get the concept of space travel working, and hopefully it will. Thanks very much to you, István. And István, you'll be back joining us as part of the jury for the pitch battles that we're going to see shortly. So thanks very much, and we'll meet with István a bit later. So we're going to take a short break now, and we'll be back in 10 minutes' time, and that will be the start for the first 3 companies who are doing the pitch battles here. So see you then.